An update on crime from the district attorney, an update on schools from the superintendent, and a toy will get you comedy and a show. Roll it, Scott. '23 is almost out of here, but let's talk about where we are in the way of crime and overdoses with our district attorney, Hiller Moore, who's here with us on set to talk with you one more time before we get out of this year. And Hiller, glad you're here, but before we get into where we are with crime trends, as of the taping of this show, 2 juveniles are still on the run from the detention center. What can you tell us about that?
I think it's probably actually 3 now, since there were 2 separate instances. Unfortunately, they have not been apprehended, have not turned themselves in. We surely are begging anyone that knows where they are to let us know, or let the police know. But we encourage them to turn themselves in so we don't have any potential issues with them turning themselves over. Obviously, at least one has escaped twice, and he's in there for a very serious offense, first-degree murder. So it's troubling that they are on the loose right now, and we don't know where they are. And you know, the whole issue of the juvenile detention center is surely tragic right now. We've been talking about this for decades.
I was going to ask you, what about this facility, man? You know,
so this is
something about that.
This is a facility that was designed to be a treatment type center, and then it was eventually turned into a detention center where you are to securely house juveniles. It just wasn't made for it. And so they've had been several attempts and escapes over the past years, and there've been damage to the facility. The facility now is designed inadequately to hold around 50 juvenile defendants. However, due to damages and budget and pay, they're only housing around 38. And I think up to 20 or so of the 38 are there for homicide, first degree, second degree murder. The others are there for robbery. We only are housing 38 because the pay that the city's able to pay is $15 an hour for a civilian. It's not even run by law enforcement in any kind of capacity. So you can imagine the situation there. And it's one that we have studied forever. We've had plans for new ones, but it goes hand in hand with the prison that we need. With these, at least one particular of these juveniles, we would like to have them housed in the parish prison, because although they're a juvenile, that's 17 years old, because we changed the law, they cannot be housed at the parish prison until they're 18, or unless the judge sets a hearing and says, I'm ordering you to be housed at the parish prison. However, the way that constitutionally the law is, that if they're below 18 and they're housed at a prison, they have to be kept sight and sound away from every other adult. And because of the cuts at the prison and the problems there, several wings are closed and they just cannot do it. And as you can imagine, no other parish wants to take our juveniles.
Well, let's talk about crime overall in the parish. We are down from last year, but it is still not exactly something to celebrate, right? So let's talk about where we are.
Historically, from the years of 2008, on all the way until 2018, we averaged around the 80s for homicide. And that, in my opinion, is double what we should have for a city our size. However, historically, our numbers have been in the 80s. And then in 2018, as you know, we had 103 homicides that year. But our worst year ever was in 2021, when we had 150 or 4950. However, since that time, and coming out of COVID, we have steadily gone down.
One would hope.
So now, this year, we're around 18% below last year. And from the 150, we're around 40% below that mark, which is a bad mark. So not one you really want to keep, but that's good news. And I think I pointed to you that the last 3 months, August, September, October, were the lowest months we've seen in a decade. And but November now, we're up to 11 so far, with another one yesterday.
What about overdoses?
Unfortunately, overdoses continue to rise. We thought that this year we were going to see a decrease. We did at the beginning of the year. We're up 4%, which is, we're going in the wrong direction on that. We have to find a way to stop the demand, the want of people that want the drugs. But Clay, it's bigger than that, as you know. We have to stop the drugs and the precursor materials coming in across the border,
Yeah.
all of the borders, whichever way they come in. And that's going to really take some big legislative efforts along with other countries, China and all. And look, this is uniquely a United States problem. We are the ones that are dying from the drugs that are coming from overseas. The other countries are not having this overdose problem like we're having. So this is something that we need to talk about on a federal level.
You know, most people, the last time you were here, you talked about, and Scott, give me an extra minute in this segment. You talked about crime being down.
Yes.
But you also addressed the fact that people here believe it's still astronomical.
Sure.
And you and the sheriff have talked about how statistically it may be down, you still have to address the way people feel here.
Sure.
How do you do that?
You know, they just really have to trust the numbers, which is hard for them to do when they see it on the news and in the newspaper every day. We always seem to publish more of the bad news than the good news.
Yeah.
But we did have an article yesterday that showed that we were down significantly. So I think that that's in the right direction, but it has to be continued, sustained numbers that are down for people to see that difference. And but it surely feels that way, even to us.
I wanted to give, we were talking about this before we started the segment. The district attorney now has a dashboard online at ebrda.org, East Baton Rouge Parish District Attorney's website. Talk about that dashboard.
Yeah, so it's called Commons. It's a program that we've had using from across the country. And what we want the public to be able to do is to look at how our office operates. In the past, the DA's office really operates in darkness because you never know why we do what we do with thousands of cases, and it's hard for us to tell folks what we do on a daily basis. So now you can look to see how long it takes for a case to move through the system, what the outcome was, and it'll be by section of court, by assistant DA, et cetera. So it's really a lot more transparency and openness, and people can see what we're doing, and we now have a better idea of what we're doing and how we do it.
Appreciate you coming on. That's ebrda.org. We'll get you back here before the year is over.
All right.
Talking about these
Thanks,
numbers.
Clay.
Right now, up at podcast225.com, you can check out episode 288 of The Clay Young Show. The audio podcast is back, and Hitler is even threatening to come be a guest. I don't know about that. But check it out, episode 288 right now at podcast225.com. Yeah, I mean, you good?
I'm good.
Okay, because we're in commercial break and you kind of spilled coffee all over the place. You know, this stuff costs money around here.
Well,
Dr.
you know,
Narcisse.
someone has to like baptize your place.
EBR School Superintendent Dr. Cito Narcisse is here with us on set, talking about where the school system is at this point in the year. In fact, Dr. Narcisse recently conducted a press conference where he talked about performance in the district, and this is one of the slides from that presentation that deals with accountability within the district, Dr. Narcisse. And as you can see here, it talks about your 6 keys to success. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, when we came when I became superintendent of Baton Rouge, one of the first things we wanted to do was engage the community and various stakeholders, whether it was neighborhood families, folks that were nonprofit organizations, the university worked with LSU, Southern University, BRCC, and everybody that supported children in the city to come up with what would be the keys for success to help Baton Rouge move forward. And we came up with these 6 keys: expansion of early childhood, making sure that kids can read by the 3rd grade, also making sure we expose careers to kids as early as possible, and then our Pathways of Bright Future, where children get to take, starting from the 9th grade, advanced classes, AP, dual enrollment, and then industry-based certification with internships that we pay for kids doing $15 an hour. And, and as you can see, you know, all of those things, as we've been just slowly putting that together over the last 2 years, are starting to yield results.
So let's talk about the district performance. One of the times, and Kyle, that monitor is flickering on me. We got the one here in the desk. Data release talks about where we're performing. How are we performing now versus where we were?
Yeah, so we actually have now reached the pre-pandemic levels. So this was before we went into COVID. We were at a certain level with progress, and then, you know, the pandemic came and it just, kids started to fall behind. And so now, when you look at our rate, we're actually getting to a much higher rate where we were past, and so kids are actually improving at a faster rate right now.
So, you know, you talked about the numbers of performance, the Pathways program that gets kids further along when they graduate from high school. Some of them can graduate with an associate's degree. It does save them money and time in an effort to get to a 2-year or 4-year degree. But there are still people who question the efficacy of the district overall, right? We still have a high percentage of males, specifically African American males, who are behind grade level and reading level. What are you doing to address that?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the district now, we have about 2/3 of the schools in a district that are progressing right now.
Right.
That was not what we walked into in January 21 when I became the superintendent.
Yeah.
I tell folks, and the reality is, when you're trying to improve kids, you have to do systems over time and be consistent with that. What has happened in EBR is when something hasn't worked, they start changing it right away, and they don't give it time for teachers to get used to working with kids.
Yeah.
And then we also put more support structures. So we have a great program that you help us support with at Glen Oaks. Glen Oaks, Estruma.
Just there, saw that, yeah.
I mean, those kids are kids who are actually staying in school.
Yeah.
Just getting kids to stay in school has a larger improvement of kids being in there. So there's a lot of work that's happening there. And the other part is, I think we're telling where people are really excited is we have about 93%. When you look at our progress report for how many schools have progressed, 93% of those schools have progress, A, B, and C. That has not happened in our district.
Right.
Forever. And so we're in a great place, but we still have a lot of work to do. Things don't happen overnight.
You got a couple minutes, and I want to get into a couple of other things with you. First up, your contract. You gonna stick around?
Yeah, that's the goal. That is the goal. I'd like to.
So tell me where that is.
Right now, I can't really talk too much details about it, but we're in conversations.
Tell us, it's just you and me.
Well, my goal is to be superintendent of East Baton Rouge for a long time.
Yeah.
But I also want to be the most effective leader that works with the community. And so I believe in this work, you have to have a community approach. And so I think I'm hopeful that my goal is that we'll be able to resolve that.
Well, what are you hearing from your board members? I mean, are you optimistic based upon what they are saying to you?
Yeah, I mean, our board, I think we have a really good board. They're trying to move the district forward. There's been a lot of subset of challenges in EBR that have been historical beyond me.
Sure.
They want to tackle some of the most plague issues, I would say, that the system has never addressed, and I think that's a part of getting the system to do better. So we're moving in a great
optimistic
place.
about it.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
So if you get renewed, lunch is on you. All right. So let's talk about the situation with in the last minute here about the buses. Where's that at now? People aren't talking about it anymore. Where are we?
Yeah. So I mean, we are picking up kids. We still have a few glitches here and there, but it's not like what we walked into. Bus operators are showing up to work.
Right.
Our challenge was we had two gaps. One was the bus operators, and we didn't have enough buses. So we're right now working on looking at purchasing a large amount of buses. So we're trying to work through that because of supply and chain demand and those things. And then after that, we work with some community partners around certain schools that have collection points. And so we've been working with the community to kind of solve those problems. So that's where we are now.
Well, Dr. Narcisse has agreed to be a guest on the audio podcast for a much longer conversation about what he's doing in the district and what his goals are for next year as we get to that midway point in the school year. But again, you can go to the school district's website to learn about how EBR schools are performing, and then we'll tell you when Doc is going to be on the audio podcast. And then quickly here, I got 20 seconds, your number one goal for next year, for the second half of the year.
Yeah, continue the work around early child expansion and helping our kids to support to do well and keeping kids in school.
There you go. Yeah. All right, let's talk a little college football and the NFL. Couldn't find anybody else, so Matt Moscone is going to be here to talk with you next. Yep. He's back, and I would have lost a bet on the fact that he would have been the first one to spill his coffee.
Thanks for the coffee mug, Clay.
Aside from the fact that he's slurping like a moron, he's also the host of After Further Review, heard all over Louisiana, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Lafayette right now too.
Lake Charles, Alexandria.
Man, and it really is a good listen, even though he hosts it. But let's get into it anyway. So. Let's talk about college football, man. Quickly here, we were talking during the break that, Southern's in their search. There's really no information right now about where it is. Very happy with the win at the Bayou Classic. It just didn't work out with Eric Dooley. It never seemed like it fell into place. And so I guess when there's news as it relates to that, we can talk more about it. But I wish Dawson had never been fired. I thought he'd done a great deal for the program.
I thought Dawson, especially in the circumstances that he came to Southern, did a great job of the program. The interesting part about Coach Dooley is it's odd that you see a midseason change in year two.
Yeah.
The fact that it unraveled so quickly, and especially when they brought him in, considering the success he'd already had in the SWAC, that felt like a can't miss, but it just goes to show you there's no such thing in coaching hires as a can't miss.
Nope.
Unless if you hire Nick Saban or Urban Meyer,
There you go.
there's no such thing as a can't miss.
Well, and then the Tigers have had a good year, maybe below the expectations a lot of people had coming into the year, but I still think it was a good year, and likely we'll have the Heisman Trophy winner this year. Your thoughts so far on LSU's season as we await whatever bowl game is coming up?
Well, if Jaden Daniels does win the Heisman, then it's an unequivocal success. I mean, he was spectacular, just the way that he runs and weaves and he hit the progression he made. And keep in mind, it was 60 years between Heisman Trophy winners. So if you get another one in two in a 5-year span,
Right.
that's something that's so sellable for future recruits, and the amount of cachet that it puts on this program is massive. I don't know if he's going to win it though, Clay. He is undeniably, objectively, the most outstanding player in college football.
No question about it.
That award has become so much of a team award, and it would really, really suck if an awful defense cost him that award.
That's a shame.
It is, but it's happened before.
Yeah, it has. And I want your thoughts on this whole Angel Reese thing, because you handle this stuff always so well. I mean, what's going on?
I'm not confident enough to say that I know exactly what happened. I feel like I have a pretty good sense of it, but suffice to say, Angel Reese is a big personality. She's had a massive year.
Absolutely.
She went from relative unknown outside of, in her sport she was known, but she went from that to literally a viral sensation.
And a millionaire.
Overnight.
Yeah.
I mean, the day before that national championship game against Iowa, she was known in women's college basketball. The next day, the president is talking. They're doing parodies on SNL.
Right.
I mean, she's got a Reebok deal. She's SI swimsuit. That's a meteoric rise in a short amount of time. I think Kim Mulkey probably just needed to set boundaries and parameters, but Angel's back, and she's going to be great, and the team's awesome.
The kid will be fine. Look, NFL season in this last 90 seconds right now, your grade on where the league is, who's the best, who are the better teams? Probably, most people would say probably the Eagles in the NFC, and I don't know in the AFC, but where would you
I thought you were going to ask me about Derek Carr and the Saints, chumps.
No, I actually have I have an intention of having lunch later on, so I don't want to spoil my.
So bad, man. And it's not even hindsight 2020. I was one of the few people that stood up and hated giving Derek Carr $150 million. 10 years into your career, you are what you are. As far as the NFC, I respect to your Niners, even though you're a front-running loser. But I think the Eagles are the best team. But Eagles-Niners, I think, are probably on a collision course in the NFC. AFC, until someone beats Mahomes and the Chiefs, I can't go against them.
How bad does it suck to know that my team is 3 times better than yours?
That's what it is.
You moron. So let's talk a little bit about.
I would put any credence into that if you weren't a Niners fan from Louisiana. You're from what? You can tell me you're a Bama fan? What do you do?
That's such a weak
you love
argument.
you love the Lakers too?
Whatever.
Die-hard
That's-
Laker fan.
Listen, if they were sucking right now like they did a few years ago, you wouldn't be saying that. But that's okay though. It's all right, man. I know. Listen,
The Saints suck. I don't care. I can get it.
I understand. You know, the real goal of any of us in sports is to live long enough to get fired by Texas A&M.
Ooh.
Jimbo Fisher.
Or the Carolina Panthers. Being a fired coach is great. If you can get it, great work if you can get it.
We'll get Matt to do the audio podcast at some point as well. Merry Christmas to you,
All right, brother.
I want you to know about this event that's taking place next week. Now check this out. Free hot chocolate, music, a comedy show, and the price of admission is a toy donation. That's pretty fantastic. Matt Johnson and my guy Seabass there, you see him in the graphic, are putting that thing together next week, man. I love this concept. Just, donate a toy for a kid, and then you get music and you get comedy, man. Is this your idea?
Yeah, I actually, with the Holy Ghost, kind of put it on me too. But no, I came together with my amazing team at Love Alive. Shout out to my head pastor, Ronaldo Hardy, who's allowing this to happen, man. And no, God just put it on my heart to do something special for the city for the holidays, bring some comedy with some music, and just do something special for the city.
Tell people again where it is if they couldn't see it on the graphic.
So that's going to be 4517 Lassen Drive at Love Alive Church. That is Love Alive Church, which is off of Green West Springs.
And you see it there at the bottom of the graphic where it is. So this is. I'm always conflicted this time of the year.
Right.
Because there is the spirit of the holidays, which is always wonderful and great. And And then there's the commercialism of the
Yeah,
holidays, which I
yeah,
can't stand.
yeah.
There were Christmas trees up for sale in stores before Halloween.
Yeah,
So it
yeah.
kind of steals
A
the
little bit of the
spirit of it
joy.
that I grew up having, and just
Yeah.
kind of makes you like, get it out of here. How do you fight against that?
Yeah, so you just gotta remember what the reason for the season is. You
Yeah.
know, you gotta understand that, you know, it's about Jesus's birth, and try not to get caught up in so much of the money aspect. Cause I got 4 kids, Clay, and so this time of year gets kind of stressful.
Little
you
bit.
know, yeah, and I be thinking about how much money I'm about to spend and all the wants and stuff. But you know, you kind of get caught up in the stuff that's less important than
Right.
the actual reason. So
Right.
you just got to kind of remember what we're celebrating.
Yeah.
You know?
You know, I love highlighting people who do so much for others. How do we catalyze or get more of that in our community? More people giving back, doing more in as much as they can.
Man, I think when people start to see change,
Yeah.
when they start to see the fruit of what can actually become of what you're doing in the community and seeing the lives that are being changed, I think a lot of people see that, and then they want that same change in whatever area is going on in their life. So I think people seeing the actual change and seeing the lives that are being blessed kind of helps people to want to be a part of something different.
What's your goal going into next year?
Man, we just trying to bless the people. We just trying to do as much as we can for the city, change lives in the community, and just be a blessing.
So again, the event is next Friday, right? Tell people again where it is.
It's going to be at Love Alive Church. I do want to say this. We're featuring the amazing Youth Ablaze Choir from UCFM. They're gonna go crazy at this event. We got Seabass doing a comedic skit. I'll be doing a Christian rap set to finish it off. And it's gonna be a beautiful event. I got some special guests coming out, and look, we're asking that you bring a toy for admission, but if you don't have the availability to bring a toy, come bring yourself and just come get blessed. Yeah.
Wow, so we got to get you to do the audio podcast as well, man.
Come
Since
on, man,
brought
I would
this
love
thing
it.
back, we'll sit down and talk. And there it is, the graphic on the screen. Episode 288 is up right now at podcast225.com. You can also get it on Apple Podcast app. And of course, if you got a Google phone, that'll work for you as well. This week's show features a documentary on sex trafficking. It is a horrible reality that is right under our noses and no one talks about it. Father Jeff Bahi is on there talking about their effort to stomp this out. I want you to check that out. Podcast225.com. You guys have a fantastic weekend and try to stay dry. And catch that event next week, next Friday night.
Yes, sir.